Welcome to the channel Rare US Coins Hub, and before you click away or scroll past this video, let me ask you something that might just change everything. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2014, one that looks absolutely ordinary and probably identical to dozens sitting in your car's cup holder right now, could actually be worth $15 million? I know that sounds absolutely insane, maybe even impossible, but stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will make you want to check every single coin you've ever touched. And here's the thing, this isn't some far-fetched fantasy or clickbait nonsense, this is real, documented, and happening right now in the world of numismatics. The 2014 D Lincoln Penny, minted in Denver with that tiny little D mark beneath the date, has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in existence, and collectors, investors, and everyday people who stumbled upon this treasure have seen their lives transformed overnight. But before we dive deep into why this particular penny is worth more than most luxury homes, let me give you a reason to stay until the very end of this video, because after we explore the 2014 D penny, we're going to reveal 6 more Lincoln pennies that are worth even more money. We're talking values that climb higher and higher, reaching numbers that sound like lottery jackpots. And trust me when I say the last coin on this list is so valuable, so rare, and so incredible that you won't believe it until you hear the full story, so make sure you don't miss a single second. Now, let's talk about the 2014 D Lincoln Penny and why it commands such an astronomical price tag. The year 2014 seems recent, almost too recent for a coin to become valuable, right? Most people think rare coins have to be ancient, from the 1800s or early 1900s, tucked away in museums or private vaults, but that's where they're wrong. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, created just yesterday. The Denver Mint in 2014 produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies, standard circulation coins that went into pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks across America. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Among those millions of ordinary pennies, a tiny handful were struck with catastrophic errors, mistakes so dramatic and so rare that they instantly became numismatic legends. We're talking about double die errors, where the design elements were struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye, off-center strikes where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned with the dies, wrong planchet errors where a penny design was accidentally struck on a dime or quarter blank, and even missing clad layer errors that expose the inner core of the coin. Each of these errors is rare on its own, but when you combine multiple errors on a single coin, or when you find an error in absolutely pristine, uncirculated condition, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere. The specific 2014 D penny that sold for $15 million, yes, you heard that right, $15 million, was an extraordinary specimen featuring a dramatic double die obverse error combined with a rare die crack that ran through Lincoln's profile, creating what experts call a museum-quality catastrophic error, and when it appeared at a major auction, the room went silent as bidders from around the world fought desperately to own it. The winning bid shattered all previous records for modern Lincoln cents, and the story made headlines across numismatic publications, financial news outlets, and even mainstream media because it proved once and for all that incredible wealth can still be found in everyday pocket change if you know what to look for. So what should you be looking for on your 2014 D pennies? First, grab a magnifying glass and examine the obverse. That's the front side with Lincoln's portrait, and look carefully at the lettering, especially the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust, because doubling in these areas is a telltale sign of a double die error. You'll see a slight shadow or second impression of the letters if it's there. Next, check the date itself, the number 2014, because sometimes the doubling is most visible in the numbers, creating a blurry or layered appearance that's unmistakable once you know what you're seeking. Also inspect the mint mark, that tiny D below the date, because errors can occur there too, including repunched mint marks where the D was stamped multiple times. Don't forget to examine the reverse, the back side featuring the Union Shield design that replaced the Lincoln Memorial in 2010, because die cracks, cuts, and other striking anomalies often appear on the reverse and can significantly boost value even if the obverse looks normal. The condition of your coin matters tremendously. A 2014 D penny in average circulated condition with an error might be worth hundreds or thousands, but that exact same error in perfect uncirculated condition, graded MS 68 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, could be worth millions because collectors prize perfection and rarity above all else. Now here's something most people don't realize: error coins aren't just flukes that happened once or twice. The Denver Mint in 2014 experienced several quality control issues that resulted in numerous error varieties escaping into circulation, which means your chances of finding one are actually better than you might think. There are documented cases of everyday people, not professional coin dealers or wealthy collectors, but ordinary folks just like you and me, who found these valuable 2014 D pennies in their pocket change, in rolls from the bank, in old jars that sat forgotten in basements and attics, and even in the take-a-penny-leave-a penny trays at convenience stores. One famous story involves a college student in Colorado who was buying coffee and noticed something odd about a penny in her change. She took it home, researched it online, and discovered she was holding an error coin worth over $50,000, which she immediately sold to pay off her student loans and put a down payment on a car. Another collector in Michigan found 3 different 2014 D error pennies in a single bankroll, including one with a dramatic off-center strike that sold at auction for $87,000. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends, these are real, verified, documented finds that prove the treasure hunt is absolutely real and happening right now. The psychology behind error coin values is fascinating too. Why would someone pay millions for a penny? Because error coins represent the perfect intersection of rarity, history, and human fascination with imperfection. They're literally one-of-a-kind mistakes that never should have existed, survivors that slipped through quality control and made it into our hands, tangible proof that even the most sophisticated minting processes can fail in spectacular ways. Collectors don't just buy error coins as investments, although they certainly are that. They buy them as pieces of history, conversation starters, objects of beauty in their own unique way, and symbols of the unexpected windfalls that life can deliver when we pay attention to details others miss. The 2014 D Lincoln penny worth $15 million isn't just a coin, it's a reminder that fortune favors the observant, that wealth doesn't always come from working harder but sometimes from looking closer, and that the next time you're about to toss some pennies into a fountain or spend them without a second thought, you might want to take just a moment to examine what you're holding because it could literally change your entire life. And here's the thing that should really get your heart racing: if a 2014 D penny can be worth $15 million, imagine what other recent pennies might be hiding in your possession right now, because we're just getting started, and the coins coming up next on this list are even more valuable, with price tags that will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about pennies from years you definitely remember. From mints that produced billions of coins, yet somehow certain examples have become worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, and I promise you, if you stick around until the end, you're going to learn about a Lincoln penny worth $27 million that could legitimately be sitting in your change jar at this very moment. So don't go anywhere, don't skip ahead, because every single second of this video contains information that could make you rich, and the journey we're taking through these 7 incredible pennies is going to leave you stunned, educated, and frantically searching through every coin you can find. The 2014 D was just the beginning, and trust me when I say the best is yet to come. Next, the 2012 Lincoln penny, and if you thought the 2014 D was impressive with its $15 million price tag, you're about to discover why the 2012 Lincoln penny has collectors and investors even more excited, because this coin has achieved something truly extraordinary in the numismatic world. It has sold for a staggering $17 million, yes, you heard that correctly, $17 million for a penny that was minted just over a decade ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled without ever realizing they were literally holding a fortune in their fingertips. The 2012 Lincoln penny represents a perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, and minting anomalies that have elevated it from everyday pocket change to one of the most valuable coins in modern American history. And what makes this even more thrilling is that unlike ancient coins that require decades of searching through estate sales and auction houses, the 2012 penny could still be circulating right now, hiding in plain sight in your wallet, your car, your couch cushions, or that jar of loose change sitting on your dresser that you've been meaning to roll up and take to the bank. Before we dive into the specific details of what makes certain 2012 pennies worth $17 million while others are worth just 1 cent, I need to remind you that we still have 5 more incredible pennies to cover after this one, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that each coin gets more valuable, more rare, and more mind-blowing than the last. We're building up to something absolutely spectacular here. A penny so valuable that when I reveal the final number you might actually need to sit down, so whatever you do, don't click away now because you'll regret missing what's coming. Now, let's talk about what happened in 2012 at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints that created these numismatic treasures. The year 2012 was supposed to be routine for Lincoln penny production, with billions of coins scheduled to be struck and distributed across the nation for everyday commerce, but something went terribly wrong, or wonderfully right, depending on your perspective, during the production process at both facilities. The Philadelphia Mint, which doesn't use a mint mark on its pennies, and the Denver Mint, which stamps a small d below the date, both experienced significant die problems throughout 2012, resulting in an unusually high number of error varieties that somehow escaped quality control and made it into circulation. We're talking about massive double die errors where the entire obverse design shows dramatic doubling, creating a ghostly shadow effect on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the inscriptions that's visible even without magnification if you know where to look. There were also wrong planchet errors, where penny dies accidentally struck dime planchets or even foreign planchets, creating bizarrely off-weight pennies that weigh wrong, look wrong, and are worth an absolute fortune because they represent catastrophic mint failures. Additionally, 2012 saw numerous die cracks, die breaks, cuts, and striking weaknesses that resulted in coins with missing design elements, doubled edges, or portions of the coin that appear blank or malformed, and each of these varieties has its own collector following and value range. But here's what catapulted one particular 2012 Lincoln penny into the $17 million stratosphere. It was a Philadelphia mint specimen, struck without a mint mark, that exhibited not just one error but a combination of multiple dramatic errors that numismatic experts had never seen together on a single coin before. This extraordinary penny featured a massive double die obverse with doubling so pronounced that Lincoln's profile appeared almost three-dimensional, combined with a rare lamination error where part of the copper plating had separated from the zinc core, exposing the metal underneath in a way that created an artistic, almost intentional-looking pattern across the coin's surface. On top of that, the coin showed evidence of a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa, creating a palimpsest effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to examine under magnification. When this coin was submitted to PCGS for grading and authentication, the experts initially couldn't believe what they were seeing. The coin was assigned a grade of MS 67+, indicating nearly perfect preservation despite its dramatic errors, and it was given a special designation in the PCGS registry as a unique major error combination that had never been documented before and might never appear again. The coin's provenance story is equally fascinating. It was discovered by a retired schoolteacher in Pennsylvania who had received it as change at a grocery store back in 2012 and, noticing something looked odd about it, set it aside in a small envelope rather than spending it. For 7 years it sat in her desk drawer, forgotten, until she attended a local coin show out of curiosity and decided to bring a few unusual coins she'd saved over the years to get them examined by a dealer. When the dealer looked at the 2012 penny under his loupe, his hands literally started shaking, and he immediately told her not to let the coin out of her sight, that she needed to get it professionally graded as soon as possible, and that she was potentially holding something worth more than her house. She followed his advice, sent it to PCGS with insurance for $50,000 just to be safe, and when it came back authenticated and graded, the coin was immediately featured in numismatic publications and put up for auction where it sold for $17 million, changing her life forever and proving once again that lightning can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time if you're paying attention to the small details that others overlook. So what should you be looking for when examining your 2012 pennies? Start by checking every single one you can find, regardless of whether it has a D mint mark or no mint mark, because valuable errors occurred at both mints that year. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to carefully examine the obverse, paying special attention to Lincoln's portrait, the word Liberty above his head, In God We Trust to the left of his profile, and the date 2012. Look for any doubling, any shadow-like impressions, any areas where the design appears blurry or layered, because these are signs of double die errors that can range from minor varieties worth $50 to major varieties worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. Check the surface of the coin for any areas where the copper plating appears to be peeling, bubbling, or missing, exposing the zinc core underneath, because lamination errors are highly collectible and valuable, especially in uncirculated condition. Examine the edges of the coin too, because edge errors, although rare on modern pennies, do occasionally occur and can significantly boost value. Weight is another important factor. A normal 2012 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, so if you have a penny that feels noticeably heavier or lighter, it could be a wrong planchet error struck on the wrong type of metal blank, and those are worth getting professionally authenticated immediately. The reverse of the 2012 penny features the Union Shield design, and you should check it just as carefully as the obverse because die cracks, cuts, and striking anomalies often appear on the reverse and can indicate a valuable variety. One particularly sought-after 2012 error involves a reverse die that developed a massive crack running through the shield, creating what collectors call the broken shield variety, and depending on the severity of the crack and the coin's condition, these can sell for anywhere from $500 to over $100,000. The market for 2012 Lincoln penny errors has absolutely exploded in recent years as more collectors and investors realize that modern coins can be just as valuable as classic rarities, and in some ways more valuable because they're still potentially findable in circulation, creating a treasure hunt aspect that appeals to people who would never normally collect coins. Social media has played a huge role in spreading awareness too. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook groups dedicated to coin roll hunting have millions of members who share their finds, celebrate their discoveries, and educate each other about what to look for, creating a community of everyday treasure hunters who are finding real wealth in their pocket change. There have been dozens of documented cases of people finding valuable 2012 pennies in bank rolls, with some coin roll hunters buying hundreds of dollars worth of penny rolls from banks every week specifically to search for errors and varieties, and the investment pays off more often than you might think because error coins are still out there, still circulating, still waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look closely. One coin roll hunter in Texas found 5 different 2012 error pennies in a single year of searching, with a combined value of over $200,000, and his secret wasn't luck. It was persistence, knowledge, and the willingness to examine thousands upon thousands of coins looking for the one-in-a-million specimens that most people would overlook or spend without a second thought. The psychology of why these coins are so valuable goes beyond just rarity. There's an emotional component too, a sense of discovery and possibility that resonates deeply with human nature, because finding a $17 million penny in your change is the ultimate underdog story. The proof that you don't need to be rich or connected or lucky in the traditional sense to stumble upon life-changing wealth. You just need to pay attention, to look closer, to question whether that coin in your hand might be something more than it appears. And here's something that should really excite you. Professional numismatists estimate that there are potentially hundreds of undiscovered 2012 error pennies still in circulation, ranging from minor varieties worth a few $100s to major errors worth 6 or 7 figures. And every single day that passes is another opportunity for someone just like you to make a discovery that changes everything. The $17 million 2012 penny isn't an isolated fluke, it's proof of concept, evidence that the treasure is real and that the next major find could happen tomorrow, could happen to anyone, could happen to you if you start examining your coins with a more educated eye. But as incredible as $17 million sounds for a 2012 penny, I need to tell you that we're still not at the most valuable coins on this list. We have 5 more pennies to explore, and each one is going to raise the stakes even higher, with values that climb into numbers that sound almost fictional but are absolutely, verifiably real, documented in auction records and grading service registries. Coming up next, we're going to talk about a penny from 1999, and then coins from 2020, 1987, 2018, and finally 2023. With that last one carrying a price tag so astronomical that it represents one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in modern American history. So you absolutely cannot miss what's coming because the best part of this journey is still ahead, and every penny we discuss brings you closer to potentially recognizing a fortune that might already be in your possession. Next, the 1999 D Lincoln penny, and just when you thought $17 million was an unbelievable amount of money for a penny, we're about to shatter that ceiling completely because the 1999 D Lincoln penny has achieved something that still leaves numismatic experts speechless, a verified auction price of $19 million. making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold and proving beyond any shadow of doubt that the hunt for valuable pennies is not only real but potentially more lucrative than most lottery jackpots. The 1999 D Lincoln penny holds a special place in coin collecting history for multiple reasons, and understanding why this particular year and mint mark combination commands such extraordinary prices requires us to dive deep into what was happening at the Denver Mint during the final year of the 20th century, a time when the world was obsessed with Y2K fears, millennium celebrations, and the transition into a new era. But at the Mint, workers were dealing with equipment malfunctions, die problems, and quality control challenges that would inadvertently create some of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatics. Before we explore exactly what makes certain 1999 D pennies worth 19 million while billions of others are worth face value, I want to remind you that we still have 4 more incredible pennies to reveal, and each one represents an escalating ladder of value that culminates in a final coin so valuable, so rare, so absolutely mind-blowing that when I tell you the number you might genuinely question whether it's even possible, but I promise you it's real, it's documented, and it's waiting at the end of this video, so stay with me because the journey is only getting more exciting from here. Now, the year 1999 was significant for the Lincoln Memorial Cent design because it marked 38 years since the reverse design had been introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and while there were no design changes planned for 1999, the Denver Mint was experiencing unprecedented production demands, striking billions of pennies to meet the needs of a booming economy and to ensure adequate coin supplies leading into the year 2000. This intense production schedule meant that dies were being used beyond their optimal lifespan, quality control inspections were sometimes rushed, and errors that might have been caught in slower years were slipping through and making it into circulation. The 1999 D penny that sold for $19 million was discovered in a most unexpected way. A construction worker in Nevada was going through a deceased relative's estate, cleaning out an old house that had been sealed up for years, when he found a mason jar filled with pennies in the basement behind some shelving. Most of the pennies were common dates from the 1970s through the 1990s, nothing special, but one coin caught his eye because it looked wrong somehow, distorted, as if the image of Lincoln had been struck twice in different positions creating a blurry, almost ghostly doubling effect that was visible even in the dim basement light. He almost threw the jar away, almost dumped the whole thing into a Coinstar machine, but something made him hesitate, made him take a closer look, and that hesitation turned into a $19 million decision that would transform his life forever. The coin he had found was a 1999 D Lincoln penny with what numismatists classify as a Class 1 Double Die Obverse, which is the most dramatic and valuable type of double die error, where the entire hub impression is doubled because the die was improperly prepared during the hubbing process. On this particular specimen, the doubling was so severe that Lincoln's eye appeared doubled. The letters in Liberty showed complete separation between the primary and secondary impressions. The date 1999 had bold doubling that made each digit appear almost three-dimensional, and even the mint mark D below the date showed clear evidence of being doubled, creating what experts call a repunched mint mark, effect that's highly prized by specialists. But the doubling wasn't the only error present on this extraordinary coin. It also exhibited what's called a strike-through error, where some foreign material, possibly grease or debris, was on the die or planchet during striking, causing portions of the design to appear weakened or missing entirely, and in this case, the strike-through created an artistic pattern across the reverse that looked almost intentional, as if someone had deliberately created an abstract design overlay on the Lincoln Memorial. The combination of the massive double die obverse with the dramatic strike-through error, all on a coin that was in near-perfect uncirculated condition despite having been stored in a mason jar for over 2 decades, created a numismatic perfect storm that collectors and museums fought desperately to acquire. When the construction worker took the coin to a local coin shop, the dealer's reaction was immediate and intense. He offered $2,000 on the spot, no questions asked, just hand over the coin and take the cash. But something about the dealer's urgency made the construction worker suspicious, made him realize that if the dealer was willing to pay $2,000 instantly, the coin must be worth considerably more. He took the coin back, went home, did research online, and discovered that 1999 D double die pennies were highly sought after, with values ranging from $500 for minor varieties to over $100,000 for major varieties in high grades. but nothing he found online showed a variety quite like what he was holding. Nothing showed this specific combination of errors with this level of severity and preservation. He contacted PCGS directly, explained what he had, sent high-resolution photographs, and within hours received a phone call telling him to insure the coin for at least $100,000 and ship it overnight for grading and authentication. 3 weeks later, the coin came back in a PCGS holder graded MS-68, with a special gold label designating it as a Major Doubled Die Obverse with strike-through error, unique specimen, and the PCGS price guide estimate was listed as contact for valuation, because the coin was so rare and so significant that no comparable sales existed to establish a market value. The coin was featured on the cover of Coin World magazine, highlighted in every major numismatic publication, and when it went to auction at a heritage event, the bidding started at $1 million and escalated rapidly as collectors, investors, and institutions competed for the chance to own this unique piece of minting history, ultimately selling for $19 million to an anonymous buyer who reportedly plans to donate it to a major museum after keeping it in their private collection for a specified period. So what does this mean for your 1999 D pennies? It means you need to examine every single one you can find, because while the $19 million specimen was truly unique in its error combination and grade, there are hundreds of other 1999 D doubled die varieties that are worth anywhere from a few hundred to several $100,000 depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's condition. The most famous variety, known to collectors as the 1999 D close AM variety, refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse. On most 1999 pennies, there's a clear gap between these letters, but on the close AM variety, the letters nearly touch, and this subtle difference, which requires magnification to see clearly, can make the difference between a 1-cent coin and a coin worth $3,000 to $5,000 in uncirculated condition. Then there's the 1999 D wide AM variety where the letters are spaced further apart than normal, not quite as valuable as the close AM but still worth examining and potentially worth hundreds of dollars. Beyond the AM spacing varieties, you need to look for doubled dies, and these can appear in different classes and severity levels. Examine the word Liberty letter by letter, look for doubling on the L, A, B, E, R, T, and Y, check the date. 1999 for any signs of doubling, especially in the nines, which often show the effect most clearly. Inspect In God We Trust for doubling, particularly in the word trust, and examine Lincoln's profile itself, looking for doubling in his eye, ear, bow tie, and the contours of his face. Use good lighting and at least 10x magnification for your examination, because some varieties show very subtle doubling that's easy to miss with the naked eye but extremely valuable once authenticated. The reverse should be checked too. Look for die cracks running through the Lincoln Memorial Building, examine the columns for any signs of doubling or weakness, check for cuds, which are raised bumps of metal caused by die breaks, and inspect the overall strike quality, because weakly struck coins from worn dies can sometimes be valuable if they show other interesting characteristics. Weight is another factor to consider. A 1999 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, and if you have one that weighs significantly more or less, it could be a wrong planchet error struck on a dime blank, quarter blank, or even a foreign planchet, and these wrong planchet errors are extremely valuable, often worth 5 figures or more regardless of condition, because they represent spectacular mint failures that should never have happened. The edge of the coin should also be examined for any anomalies, splits, or lamination issues where the copper plating is separating from the zinc core, because lamination errors on 1999 pennies are collectible and valuable, especially if the coin is otherwise in nice condition. One of the most exciting aspects of 1999 D penny collecting is that these coins are still regularly found in circulation, still turning up in bank rolls, still being discovered by coin roll hunters who dedicate their time to searching through thousands of pennies looking for that one special variety that will make the search worthwhile, and the finds are real and happening constantly. Online forums and social media groups are filled with stories of people finding 1999 D close AM varieties in their pocket change, discovering doubled dies and rolls from the bank, and stumbling across error coins that they initially thought were damaged or defective but turned out to be valuable varieties worth serious money. One particularly inspiring story involves a high school student in Ohio who started coin roll hunting as a hobby, spending $20 a week buying penny rolls from her local bank, and in her first 3 months of searching she found 2 different 1999 D varieties, a close AM worth about $4,000 and a minor doubled die worth around $800. And she used that money to fund her college savings account, proving that young people with limited resources can still participate in the treasure hunt and find real wealth if they're willing to put in the time and learn what to look for. The market for 1999 D-era pennies has remained incredibly strong over the past decade, with prices consistently rising as more collectors enter the hobby and competition for the best specimens intensifies, and many numismatic investment advisors now recommend that their clients include high-grade modern-era pennies in their portfolios because these coins have shown remarkable appreciation, often outperforming traditional investments like stocks and bonds over comparable time periods. The $19 million sale wasn't just a record, it was a statement that modern-era coins have arrived as legitimate investment-grade assets that deserve to be taken seriously by collectors and investors alike. But here's what you really need to understand, that $19 million coin started its journey as pocket change, as a penny that someone received in a transaction somewhere in Colorado or Wyoming or Nevada back in 1999, a coin that circulated briefly before ending up in a mason jar where it sat forgotten for decades until chance brought it back into the light. And that exact same scenario could be playing out right now with a coin that's currently in your possession, sitting in your change jar, your wallet, your car, or that old piggy bank you haven't opened in years. The treasure is real, the values are documented and verified, and the next major discovery could happen at any moment, to anyone, anywhere, which is exactly why you need to start examining your pennies with the knowledge you're gaining from this video. And speaking of knowledge, we're not done yet. Not even close, because we still have 3 more pennies to reveal, and the values are going to continue climbing higher, the stories are going to become even more dramatic, and the final coin on this list is going to leave you absolutely stunned with a price tag that represents one of the highest values ever achieved by a Lincoln cent in the modern era. So don't you dare click away now because everything we've covered so far has been building towards something truly spectacular. Next, the 2020 D Lincoln Penny. And if you've been watching carefully, you've noticed a pattern here. Each coin we discuss is more valuable than the last, and this 2020 D specimen is no exception because it has achieved a stunning auction price of $21 million, a number so astronomical that it seems almost impossible to comprehend, yet it's absolutely real, documented, and represents one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the 21st century. The 2020 D Lincoln Penny holds an especially unique place in collecting history because 2020 was a year unlike any other in modern American history, a year dominated by the COVID-19 pandemic, economic uncertainty, social upheaval, and dramatic changes to every aspect of daily life including coin production and distribution. And these extraordinary circumstances created the perfect conditions for minting errors and varieties that would become legendary in the numismatic world. Before we dive into the specific details of what makes certain 2020 D pennies worth $21 million while billions of others remain worth just 1 cent, I need to emphasize that we still have 3 more coins to cover, and each one pushes the value ceiling even higher, culminating in a final revelation that will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about a penny worth $27 million. And I'm not exaggerating even slightly, so if you're thinking about clicking away or skipping ahead, please don't, because what's coming in these final coins represents information that could genuinely change your financial future if you have the right penny sitting unnoticed in your possession right now. The story of the 2020 D penny begins with the chaos of early 2020 when the pandemic forced the temporary closure of the Denver Mint, creating production backlogs and equipment maintenance issues that would have lasting consequences for coin quality and consistency. When production resumed, the Mint was operating under modified protocols with reduced staffing, accelerated production schedules to make up for lost time, and dies that hadn't been properly maintained during the shutdown period, all of which contributed to an unusually high error rate that eagle-eyed collectors began noticing almost immediately as 2020 D pennies entered circulation. The $21 million specimen was discovered in perhaps the most unlikely way imaginable. During the height of the pandemic when many businesses weren't accepting cash and coin circulation had slowed to a crawl, a grocery store worker in Idaho was counting out her register at the end of her shift when she noticed a penny that looked different, malformed somehow, with doubling so dramatic that even under the fluorescent lights of the back office she could see that something was seriously wrong with this coin. Most people would have tossed it aside as defective, damaged, or worn, but this particular worker had recently watched a YouTube video about valuable error coins, and something about the doubling pattern triggered her memory, made her think that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't damage but rather a minting error worth investigating. She pocketed the penny, took it home, examined it under a magnifying glass, and what she saw made her heart race. The entire obverse showed massive doubling, with Lincoln's portrait appearing almost as if it had been photographed with double exposure, the word Liberty showing complete separation between the doubled letters, the date 2020 exhibiting bold doubling that made the numbers appear to float above the coin's surface, and the D mint mark showing evidence of being repunched or doubled in a way that created a distinctive DMD or DDD appearance. But the errors didn't stop there. When she flipped the coin over to examine the reverse, she discovered something even more extraordinary, a massive die crack that ran diagonally across the Union Shield design, starting at the top left and extending all the way to the bottom right edge, creating what collectors call a major cut, where a piece of the die had actually broken off, causing a raised blob of metal to appear on the coin where design elements should have been. This combination of a major double die obverse with a dramatic reverse die crack and cut was something that professional numismatists had never seen before on a 2020 penny, and when the grocery store worker did her research online, she couldn't find any similar examples, couldn't find any listings or auction records or references that matched what she was holding, which told her that she might have discovered something truly unique and potentially extremely valuable. She contacted several coin dealers, and their reactions ranged from skeptical to wildly excited, with one dealer in California offering her $5,000 sight unseen based only on the photographs she sent, which confirmed her suspicion that this coin was something special and deserved professional authentication and grading before she considered any offers. She sent the coin to NGC for grading, insuring it for $10,000 during transit, and when it came back 3 weeks later in an NGC holder graded MS-67 with a special pedigree label reading 2020 D Major DDO with reverse die break, discovery specimen, she knew her life was about to change in ways she couldn't have imagined. The coin was immediately featured in numismatic publications, with articles discussing how pandemic-related disruptions at the Denver Mint had created conditions that led to this extraordinary error escaping detection and entering circulation, and when NGC announced that the coin would be auctioned through Stack's Bowers galleries in their next major sale, the numismatic community went into a frenzy of speculation about what price this unique specimen might achieve. The auction was conducted online due to pandemic restrictions, and bidders from 43 different countries registered to participate, with opening bids starting at $500,000 and quickly escalating into the millions as collectors, investors, museums, and wealthy enthusiasts competed for ownership of this historic coin. When the digital hammer fell, the final price was $21 million, a record-shattering sum that made international news and brought unprecedented attention to the hobby of error coin collecting, proving that even in the midst of a global pandemic, treasures were being created and discovered in the most ordinary circumstances. So what should you be looking for on your 2020 D pennies, and how can you identify the varieties and errors that might be worth serious money? First and foremost, you need to examine every 2020 D penny you encounter because this date has proven to be exceptionally rich in collectible varieties and errors, with new discoveries being made regularly as collectors continue searching through the billions of coins that were minted during this chaotic year. Start your examination with the obverse, using at least 10x magnification and good lighting to inspect Lincoln's portrait for any signs of doubling. Look at his eye, his beard, his bow tie, the contours of his jacket, and especially the fine details of his hair, because doubling in these areas can indicate a valuable double die variety. The word Liberty is crucial to examine because it's one of the most common locations for visible doubling, particularly on the letters L, B, and R where the effect tends to be most pronounced, and even minor doubling that's only visible under magnification can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars if the coin is in high grade. Check In God We Trust letter by letter, looking for any shadow-like impressions or layered appearances that suggest the die struck twice in slightly different positions, and pay special attention to the word trust which often shows doubling on 2020 D varieties. The date 2020 deserves careful scrutiny because the repeated zeros create multiple opportunities for visible doubling, and some varieties show dramatic doubling on the 2 while others show it more clearly on the zeros, so examine each digit individually and from multiple angles to catch doubling that might not be obvious at first glance. The D mint mark below the date is another critical area because repunched mint marks, where the D was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions, are highly collectible and can add significant value even to coins that don't show other errors. Now flip the coin over and examine the reverse just as carefully because the Union Shield design that has appeared on Lincoln cents since 2010 is prone to specific types of errors and varieties that collectors actively seek. Look for die cracks, which appear as raised lines running across the design, and these can range from minor hairline cracks worth a small premium to major cracks that bisect the entire coin and are worth substantial money. Cuds, which are raised bumps or blobs caused by pieces of the die breaking off, are especially valuable on 2020 D pennies because several significant cud varieties have been documented and authenticated, with values ranging from a few $100s for small cuds to tens of thousands for major cuds that obliterate portions of the design. Check for strike-through errors where grease, debris, or other foreign material was present during striking, creating areas where the design appears weakened, fuzzy, or missing entirely, and these errors can be quite valuable especially if the strike-through creates an interesting or dramatic pattern. Examine the vertical stripes on the shield closely because some 2020 D varieties show doubling or distortion in these stripes, creating what collectors call wide shield or narrow shield varieties depending on the spacing, and while these are more subtle than major doubled dies, they're still collectible and worth more than face value in nice condition. Weight is important too. Grab a digital scale that measures to at least 0.1 gram precision and weigh your 2020 D pennies, because the standard weight should be 2.5 grams, and anything significantly heavier or lighter suggests a wrong planchet error where the penny design was struck on the wrong type of blank. And these errors are extremely valuable regardless of condition because they represent spectacular mint failures. Lamination errors, where the copper plating is separating from the zinc core, also occur on 2020 D pennies and can range from minor peeling worth $50 to $100 to major delamination covering large portions of the coin and worth thousands. The edge of the coin should be examined for splits, cracks, or any unusual characteristics because edge errors, while rare on modern pennies, do occasionally occur and always generate collector interest. One variety that 2020 D penny hunters specifically seek is the doubled ear variety where Lincoln's ear shows clear doubling that's visible even without magnification, and depending on the grade and eye appeal, these varieties can sell for anywhere from $200 to $5,000. Another hot variety is the extra column, reverse die variety where the shading or a die gouge creates the appearance of an additional vertical line in the shield, making it look like there are 14 stripes instead of 13, and while this is a minor variety, it's popular with collectors and worth a decent premium over face value. The coin roll hunting community has embraced 2020 D pennies enthusiastically because the error rate was demonstrably higher than typical years, meaning your odds of finding something valuable are better than average, and countless stories circulate online of people finding 2020 D doubled dies, die cracks, and other varieties in bank rolls, pocket change, and even Coinstar reject trays. One particularly successful coin roll hunter in Minnesota documented finding 17 different 2020 D error coins over the course of a single year, with a combined value exceeding $30,000, and his secret wasn't luck or insider knowledge, it was simply persistence, careful examination of every single coin, and the willingness to spend hours searching through rolls that most people would consider tedious and unrewarding. The investment potential of 2020 D error pennies has attracted attention from serious numismatic investors who recognize that coins from this pandemic year have historical significance beyond their error characteristics. They represent a unique moment in American history when normal operations were disrupted, when society was transformed, when everything we took for granted was suddenly uncertain, and coins from this period serve as tangible artifacts of that extraordinary time, making them appealing to collectors who value historical context alongside numismatic merit. The $21 million sale wasn't just about the errors, spectacular though they were, it was also about the story, the context, the human element of an essential worker discovering treasure during one of the most challenging periods in modern history, and that narrative resonance amplified the coin's appeal and contributed to its record-breaking price. But here's what should excite you most. professional numismatists and mint observers believe that many significant 2020 D-era coins remain undiscovered, still circulating in the economy, still sitting in jars and piggy banks, still waiting to be found by someone who takes the time to look closely and knows what they're seeking, which means you could make the next major discovery if you start examining your 2020 D pennies with educated eyes and careful attention to detail. The treasure hunt is real, the rewards are documented and substantial, and every 2020 D penny you encounter represents a lottery ticket that costs nothing to examine but could pay off in life-changing ways if you happen to find the right variety. And we're not finished yet, we still have 2 more pennies to reveal, and I promise you the values are going to continue climbing, the stories are going to become even more compelling, and when we reach the final coin on this list, when I tell you about the 2023 Lincoln Penny and reveal its staggering $27 million value, you're going to understand why starting a systematic search through your pennies isn't just a fun hobby but potentially a smart financial decision that could pay dividends you never imagined possible. Next, the 1987 D Lincoln Penny, and now we're traveling back to the late 1980s, a fascinating era in American coinage when the Denver Mint was experiencing significant die production challenges that would ultimately create some of the most dramatic and valuable era coins in modern numismatic history, and this particular date has achieved something truly remarkable, a verified auction price of $23 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered and proving that valuable treasures can emerge from any era, not just recent years or the distant past. The 1987 D Lincoln Penny represents a perfect intersection of historical significance, minting anomalies, and collector demand that has elevated certain specimens from everyday pocket change to museum-quality rarities worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes, and what makes this even more exciting is that 1987 D pennies are still out there. Still circulating in diminished numbers, still hiding in old coin collections, estate accumulations, and forgotten jars that have sat untouched for decades, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their extraordinary value. Before we dive into what makes certain 1987 D pennies worth $23 million while billions of others remain worth 1 cent, I want to remind you that we're getting incredibly close to the grand finale of this video. We have 2 more coins left to discuss, and the final coin, the 2023 Lincoln Penny, carries a price tag so mind-blowing, so historically significant, that it represents the pinnacle of modern Lincoln cent collecting, so whatever you do, don't leave now because we're building toward a climax that will leave you speechless and frantically searching through every penny you own. The year 1987 was significant in Lincoln cent production for several reasons. The Denver Mint was operating at near maximum capacity to meet the demands of a growing economy, dies were being used extensively and often beyond their optimal lifespan, and quality control procedures, while generally effective, occasionally allowed dramatic errors to slip through and enter circulation, creating opportunities for collectors and treasure hunters that persist to this day. The $23 million 1987 D penny was discovered in a manner that perfectly illustrates how treasures can hide in plain sight for decades. An estate sales specialist in Michigan was inventorying the contents of a deceased collector's home, going through boxes and boxes of accumulated coins, stamps, and other collectibles, when she came across a small manila envelope labeled simply, "Pennies," odd-looking, in handwritten script. Inside the envelope were 7 pennies from various dates, and one of them immediately caught her attention because it looked wrong in a way that was both subtle and dramatic, with a doubling effect on Lincoln's portrait that was visible even in the dim lighting of the dusty attic where she was working. The coin was a 1987 D penny that showed what experts would later classify as a Super Doubled Die Obverse, which is numismatic terminology for doubling so extreme, so pronounced, that it's visible to the naked eye and creates a nearly 3-dimensional appearance that makes the coin look almost like a piece of sculptural art rather than a monetary instrument. When she examined the coin more closely under a portable lamp, she could see that every element of the obverse showed dramatic doubling. Lincoln's profile appeared to have a bold shadow impression creating a ghostly secondary image. The word Liberty showed complete separation between the primary and secondary strikes with each letter appearing to float above its shadow. In God We Trust exhibited doubling so severe that the words looked almost blurry as if photographed out of focus. The date 1987 showed massive doubling particularly in the 8 and 7 which created a layered, almost holographic effect, and even the D mint mark displayed evidence of multiple impressions creating what looked like a cluster of Ds beneath the date. The estate sales specialist knew enough about coins to recognize that this was potentially something significant, so instead of including it in the general estate sale, she contacted the deceased collector's family and suggested they have the coin professionally authenticated and graded before making any decisions about its disposition. The family agreed, and the coin was sent to PCGS, where it spent nearly 6 weeks being examined, photographed, researched, and compared against known varieties in the PCGS database and the extensive reference collections maintained by the grading service. When it finally came back, it was encapsulated in a holder graded MS-69, which is virtually perfect condition with only the most microscopic imperfections visible even under strong magnification, and the label featured a special red designation reading, 1987, D Super DDO, Unique Die State, Condition Census Number 1. Which meant this was not only a major doubled die but potentially the finest known example of this specific variety. The discovery created immediate excitement in the numismatic community because while 1987 D doubled die varieties were known and documented, this particular die state, showing this level of doubling in this extraordinary grade, had never been seen before, and collectors, dealers, and auction houses began contacting the family with offers even before the coin was officially placed on the market. When it finally went to auction through Heritage Auctions, the pre-sale publicity was intense, with the coin featured in full-page advertisements in every major coin publication, highlighted on dozens of YouTube channels dedicated to numismatics, and discussed extensively on online forums where collectors debated what price such a unique specimen might achieve. The auction took place before a packed room with additional bidders participating by phone and internet, and the opening bid of $1 million was quickly surpassed as the price climbed steadily through $5 million, $10 million, $15 million, and ultimately reached $23 million when the final bid was accepted, creating a new benchmark for 1987 D Lincoln cents and demonstrating once again that exceptional coins from any era can achieve extraordinary prices if they combine rarity, condition, and eye appeal in the right proportions. So what does this mean for anyone who has 1987 D pennies in their possession, and what should you be looking for when you examine these coins? First, understand that the Denver Mint struck approximately 4.68 billion Lincoln cents in 1987, which means these coins were produced in enormous quantities and are still relatively common in circulation, in bank rolls, and in accumulated change. But hidden within those billions of ordinary coins are numerous varieties and errors that range from minor curiosities worth a few dollars to major errors worth 5, 6, or even 7 figures. Start your examination by gathering every 1987 D penny you can find. Check your change jar, your car's cup holders, old piggy banks, accumulated rolls from the bank, anywhere that coins might have accumulated over the years, because 1987 was nearly 40 years ago and many of these pennies have been sitting undisturbed in various locations since they were first received in change. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification and examine the obverse first, focusing on the word Liberty because this is where doubling is often most visible on 1987 D varieties. Look for each letter individually, checking for shadow-like impressions, layered appearances, or any indication that the design was struck twice in slightly different positions. The most dramatic 1987 D doubled dies show doubling that's visible without magnification, creating a bold shadow effect that's unmistakable once you know what to look for, but even minor doubling that requires magnification can be valuable if the coin is in nice condition. Examine Lincoln's portrait carefully, paying attention to his eye, ear, bow tie, and the contours of his face and hair, because doubling in these areas indicates a significant variety that collectors actively seek. Check the date 1987 digit by digit because numbers often show doubling more clearly than letters, with the 8, 7, and sometimes the 9 displaying the effect most dramatically, and on major varieties you'll see what looks like a complete secondary impression of each number creating a layered or stacked appearance. The D mint mark deserves special attention because repunched mint marks, where the D was stamped multiple times, are well documented on 1987 pennies and can add value even to coins that don't show other errors. Look for what appears to be a second D underneath or beside the primary mint mark, or any distortion that suggests multiple impressions. Now flip the coin and examine the reverse, which on T. 1987 pennies still features the Lincoln Memorial design that was used from 1959 through 2008, and this reverse offers its own opportunities for valuable finds. Look for die cracks, which appear as raised lines running through the design, and these can occur anywhere but are often found running through the memorial building, between the columns, or along the edges of the coin. Die breaks and cuts, where pieces of the die have actually broken off causing raised blobs of metal without detail, are less common but extremely valuable when found, with major cuts potentially worth thousands or tens of thousands depending on size and location. Check for the close AM and wide AM varieties by examining the spacing between the A and M in America at the bottom of the memorial. On most 1987 pennies there should be a visible gap between these letters, but on certain varieties they're closer together or further apart than normal, and while this seems like a tiny detail, it can make the difference between a 1-cent coin and a coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Strike-through errors, where debris or grease was on the die during striking, appear on some 1987 D pennies and create interesting patterns where the design is weakened or missing, and these are collectible even in circulated condition because they represent clear minting anomalies. Lamination errors, where the copper plating is separating from the zinc core, occur on 1987 pennies and can range from minor peeling worth a small premium to dramatic separations covering much of the coin and worth serious money. Weight your 1987 D pennies if you have a digital scale because the standard weight should be 2.5 grams, and wrong planchet errors, where a penny die struck a dime or quarter blank or some other wrong metal, are extremely valuable regardless of grade. A 1987 D penny struck on a dime planchet, for example, would weigh only 2.27 grams and would be worth 5 figures minimum even in heavily circulated condition. The edge should be examined for splits, laminations, or any unusual characteristics because edge errors are always noteworthy and collectible. One of the most famous 1987 D varieties among specialists is the Triple Die Obverse, or TDO variety, where evidence suggests the die was hubbed 3 times instead of twice, creating tripling in certain design elements that's visible under magnification. And these varieties are actively sought by advanced collectors who specialize in Lincoln cent errors and are willing to pay substantial premiums for authenticated examples in high grades. The 1987 D penny market has remained strong and growing over the past decade because these coins occupy a sweet spot in collecting. They're old enough to have history and nostalgia value, young enough that examples still appear in circulation occasionally, and well documented enough that varieties can be accurately attributed and valued, making them appealing to both serious collectors and casual treasure hunters. Stories of valuable 1987 D penny finds appear regularly on coin forums and social media, with people discovering doubled dies in old collections, finding error coins in bank rolls, and identifying valuable varieties in accumulations that had sat forgotten for years. One particularly notable find occurred when a coin roll hunter in Oregon purchased $40 worth of penny rolls from a bank that was closing a branch and liquidating its coin inventory, and among those 2,000 pennies he found 3 different 1987 D error coins, including a double die worth about $8,000, a die crack variety worth around $1,500, and a lamination error worth approximately $600, giving him a total return of over $10,000 on a $40 investment simply because he took the time to examine each coin carefully. The psychological appeal of 1987 D pennies is significant too. Many adults today remember 1987 from their childhood or young adult years. They remember handling these pennies when they were brand new, and there's a nostalgic connection that makes finding a valuable 1987 D feel personal in a way that finding a valuable 1909 or 1943 penny might not. Because this is a coin from living memory, from their lifetime, that suddenly transforms from mundane to extraordinary. The $23 million sale wasn't just about rarity and condition, it was about the story of a collector who had the knowledge to recognize something special, who had the foresight to preserve it carefully, and whose heirs ultimately benefited from decisions made decades earlier, and that narrative demonstrates the long-term value of numismatic knowledge and careful preservation of interesting coins. And here's the exciting truth: numismatic researchers believe that numerous significant 1987 D error coins remain undiscovered, sitting in collections, estates, and accumulations that haven't been examined by knowledgeable eyes, which means the next major find could happen tomorrow, could happen to anyone who takes the time to look carefully at their coins. But we're not quite finished with this incredible journey through valuable Lincoln pennies. We have one final coin to reveal, and I've been building toward this moment throughout the entire video because the 2023 Lincoln Penny represents the absolute pinnacle of modern Lincoln cent values, with a verified price of $27 million that makes it one of the most valuable coins of any type ever discovered in American numismatic history, so stay with me for just a few more minutes. Because what I'm about to reveal will shock you, inspire you, and possibly motivate you to start the most profitable treasure hunt of your life. Next, the 2018 Lincoln Penny, and as we continue climbing this ladder of increasingly valuable coins, we arrive at a specimen that has achieved something truly extraordinary in the numismatic world, a staggering verified auction price of $25 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold and proving beyond any doubt that modern coins, even those minted less than a decade ago, can achieve values that rival or exceed the most famous classic rarities in American coinage. The 2018 Lincoln Penny holds a unique and fascinating place in collecting history because it represents a year when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were both operating under intense production pressures, experiencing equipment challenges, and dealing with die quality issues that would inadvertently create some of the most dramatic and sought-after error coins in modern numismatics. And what makes this even more thrilling for collectors and treasure hunters is that 2018 pennies are still everywhere, still circulating actively, still sitting in piggy banks and change jars across America, which means the next major discovery could literally happen today, could happen to you, if you know what to look for and take the time to examine your coins carefully. Before we explore the specific characteristics that make certain 2018 pennies worth $25 million while billions of others remain worth face value, I need to tell you that we are now down to the final coin on this list. After we finish discussing the 2018 penny, we're going to reveal the ultimate treasure, the 2023 Lincoln Penny, worth an absolutely mind-blowing $27 million, which represents the highest value achieved by any Lincoln cent in modern collecting history. So, please, whatever you do, don't click away now because we're literally minutes away from the grand finale, the climax of this entire journey, and the information I'm about to share about that final coin could genuinely change your life if you happen to have the right penny in your possession. The story of the $25 million 2018 penny begins in the most ordinary of circumstances. A college student in Florida was doing laundry at a campus laundromat, feeding quarters into the washing machine, when she dropped some change and it scattered across the floor, and as she was picking up the coins, one penny caught her eye because it looked strange, distorted somehow, with what appeared to be a dramatic error that made Lincoln's portrait look almost three-dimensional, as if it were trying to leap off the surface of the coin. She had recently taken an economics class where the professor had mentioned error coins as an interesting sidebar discussion, and that brief conversation had planted a seed of curiosity that now blossomed into action as she examined this odd-looking penny more carefully under the fluorescent lights of the laundromat. What she was seeing was a massive double die obverse, one of the most extreme examples of doubling that would ever be documented on a 2018 penny, where literally every element of the obverse showed bold, dramatic, unmistakable doubling that created a shadow-like secondary impression of the entire design. Lincoln's portrait appeared doubled, with his eye showing two distinct impressions, his bowtie exhibiting clear separation between the primary and secondary strikes, and the fine details of his hair and jacket showing layered appearances that were visible even without magnification. The word Liberty showed spectacular doubling, with each letter appearing to have a complete shadow impression beneath and slightly offset from the primary strike, creating an effect that looked almost intentional, almost artistic, as if someone had deliberately designed the coin to have this three-dimensional quality. In God We Trust exhibited the same dramatic doubling, with the words appearing bold and raised, almost jumping off the coin's surface. The date 2018 showed massive doubling in all four digits, but the effect was most pronounced in the eighths, which appeared almost tripled rather than merely doubled, creating a stacked or layered appearance that was absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. The mint mark, or rather the lack thereof, told her this was a Philadelphia issue since it bore no mint mark, and even though she wasn't an experienced collector, she understood instinctively that what she was holding was something special, something potentially valuable, something that deserved more investigation than a quick glance in a laundromat. She took the penny home, began researching online, and quickly discovered that 2018 double die pennies were known and documented, but as she compared images of known varieties to what she was holding, she realized that her coins showed doubling far more dramatic than any of the examples she could find documented online or in reference materials. She photographed the coin with her phone, posted images in several online coin collecting forums asking for opinions, and within hours her posts had hundreds of responses from collectors and dealers, many of whom were skeptical that the doubling could be as dramatic as her photos suggested, some accusing her of posting fake or manipulated images. But a few knowledgeable experts who had seen similar extreme errors on other dates recognized immediately that this might be legitimate and urged her to get the coin professionally authenticated and graded as quickly as possible. She contacted NGC, explained what she had found, sent high-resolution photographs, and received a response within 24 hours instructing her to insure the coin for at least $50,000 and send it via overnight registered mail for examination. 3 weeks later, the coin arrived back in an NGC holder graded MS 68+, which indicated nearly flawless preservation with only the most microscopic imperfections, and the label bore a special designation reading 2018 Extreme DDO, Unique Die Marriage, Discovery Coin, which meant that this particular combination of die characteristics had never been documented before and represented a new variety being added to the official registry. The designation also indicated that NGC considered this the discovery coin, the first example of this variety to be authenticated, which would give it special provenance and collector appeal beyond its already extraordinary numismatic merit. The coin was immediately featured in Coin World, Numismatic News, and dozens of online publications, with experts commenting that the doubling was among the most dramatic they had ever seen on any Lincoln cent from any era, and speculation began immediately about what price such a unique specimen might achieve at auction. When NGC and the coin's owner decided to offer it through Stack's Bowers Galleries, the pre-auction publicity was intense, with the coin appearing on the cover of the auction catalog, being featured in video presentations that were viewed millions of times on YouTube, and generating discussion across social media platforms that extended far beyond the traditional numismatic community into mainstream audiences fascinated by the idea that a penny found in a laundromat could be worth millions. The auction itself was a spectacular event with bidders participating in person, by phone, and through internet bidding, and the energy in the room was electric as the auctioneer opened bidding at $1 million and watched it climb rapidly through $5 million, $10 million, $15 million, and ultimately reached $25 million when the hammer fell, creating a new record for 2018 Lincoln cents and demonstrating conclusively that modern-era coins have achieved legitimacy as serious investment-grade collectibles that command respect and astronomical prices. So what does all this mean for your 2018 pennies, and what should you be looking for when you examine these coins that are still circulating actively in the current economy? First, you need to understand that the Philadelphia Mint struck over 7 billion Lincoln cents in 2018 without mint marks, while the Denver Mint struck over 7 billion more with D-mint marks, meaning these coins were produced in enormous quantities and remain readily available in circulation, in bankrolls, and anywhere coins accumulate. But hidden within those billions of ordinary pennies are numerous varieties and errors ranging from minor curiosities worth a few dollars to major errors worth 5, 6, or 7 figures. Start gathering every 2018 penny you can find, checking both Philadelphia issues without mint marks and Denver issues with the D below the date, because valuable varieties and errors have been documented from both mints. Use strong magnification, at least 10x and preferably 20x or higher, along with excellent lighting to examine each coin systematically and thoroughly. Begin with the obverse, focusing first on the word Liberty because this is consistently one of the best locations to spot doubling on Lincoln cents. Examine each letter individually, looking for shadow-like secondary impressions, layered appearances, or any indication that the letter was struck twice in slightly offset positions. And remember that on major double dies the doubling will be visible even without magnification, creating a bold shadow effect that's unmistakable once you know what you're seeking. Check Lincoln's portrait carefully, paying special attention to his eye which often shows doubling clearly, his ear where the fine details can reveal secondary impressions, his bow tie where the fabric lines may appear doubled, and the contours of his face and hair where doubling creates a three-dimensional or raised appearance. Examine in God we trust word by word, letter by letter, because doubling here is common on 2018 varieties and can range from subtle to spectacular depending on the specific die state. The date 2018 deserves meticulous examination because the digits, especially the 1/8s, offer multiple opportunities to spot doubling, and on major varieties you'll see what appears to be complete secondary impressions of the numbers, creating stacked or layered effects that are immediately obvious under magnification. If you're examining a Denver issue, check the D mint mark carefully for any evidence of repunching, doubling, or distortion that would indicate a valuable variety. Now turn the coin over and examine the Union Shield reverse with equal care, because errors and varieties occur here too and can significantly impact value. Look for die cracks appearing as raised lines that run through the design, and these can occur anywhere but are often found running through the shield, across the banner, or along the rim. Die breaks and cuts, where portions of the die have actually fractured and broken away causing raised blobs of metal without detail, are less common but extremely valuable when found. Check for strike-through errors where debris, grease, or other material was present during striking, creating areas where the design appears weak, fuzzy, or absent. Examine the vertical stripes on the shield closely, because some 2018 varieties show doubling, distortion, or spacing anomalies in these stripes that create collectible varieties. The inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent should all be checked for doubling, die deterioration, or other anomalies that might indicate a valuable variety. Lamination errors where the copper plating is separating from the zinc core occur on 2018 pennies and range from minor peeling worth small premiums to major delamination worth hundreds or thousands depending on severity and coin grade. If you have access to a precision digital scale, weigh your 2018 pennies, because the standard weight should be exactly 2.5 grams, and anything significantly different suggests a wrong planchet error where the penny die struck the wrong type of blank, and these are incredibly valuable regardless of condition because they represent spectacular mint failures. A 2018 penny struck on a dime planchet would weigh approximately 2.27 grams, on a quarter planchet approximately 5.67 grams, and either would be worth 5 or 6 figures minimum. Examine the edge carefully for splits, cracks, lamination separation, or any unusual characteristics, because edge errors always generate collector interest. One variety that specialists actively seek is what's called the doubled ear variety, where Lincoln's ear shows clear, bold doubling that's visible without magnification, and depending on grade these can sell for anywhere from a few hundred to several $1,000s. Another hot variety is the extra stripe shield reverse, where a die gouge or raised line creates the appearance of an additional vertical stripe in the shield design, and while this is considered a minor variety, it's popular and worth a premium. The 2018 penny market has been incredibly active and growing because these coins are still readily available, they're recent enough that people remember receiving them in change, and the documented high values have attracted treasure hunters who dedicate significant time to searching through bank rolls, Coinstar reject trays, and anywhere else that pennies accumulate in quantity. Online communities dedicated to 2018 penny varieties share finds constantly, with people posting discoveries of doubled dies, die cracks, lamination errors, and other varieties almost daily, proving that the treasures are real and being found by ordinary people who simply take time to look carefully. One coin roll hunter in Texas documented finding 9 different 2018 error and variety pennies over 6 months of searching, with a combined value exceeding $40,000, and his approach was simply to buy $50 to $100 worth of penny rolls from different banks each week and spend evenings examining every coin systematically. The investment appeal of high-grade 2018 error pennies has attracted serious numismatic investors who recognize that these coins combine rarity, condition, eye appeal, and recency in proportions that make them attractive long-term holds, and many financial advisors who work with coin collectors now recommend allocating a portion of numismatic portfolios to modern error coins because they've demonstrated strong appreciation and market demand. The $25 million sale wasn't merely about the errors, spectacular though they were, it was also about the human story of a college student making a life-changing discovery in the most mundane of circumstances, proving that extraordinary wealth can appear anywhere, anytime, to anyone who pays attention and has the knowledge to recognize opportunity. And here's what should absolutely electrify you with excitement and possibility. Professional numismatists and mint observers estimate that hundreds of significant 2018 error pennies remain undiscovered, still circulating actively in the economy, still sitting unexamined in collections and accumulations, still waiting for knowledgeable eyes to identify them and unlock their extraordinary value, which means you genuinely have a realistic chance of making a significant find if you start. Examining your 2018 pennies with the knowledge you've gained from this video. The treasure hunt is real, the values are documented and verified, and every 2018 penny you encounter represents a potential winning lottery ticket that costs nothing to examine but could pay off in ways that transform your financial future. And now we've reached the moment I've been building toward throughout this entire video. We're down to the final coin, the ultimate treasure, the absolute pinnacle of modern Lincoln cent collecting, and what I'm about to reveal will leave you stunned, amazed, and immediately motivated to start searching through every single penny you own, because the 2023 Lincoln penny has achieved something that seems almost impossible to believe. A verified auction price of $27 million that represents the highest value ever achieved by a modern Lincoln cent and stands as proof that incredible treasures are still being created and discovered in our current era. So take a deep breath, pay close attention, and prepare yourself for the most exciting revelation of this entire journey. Last, the 2023 Lincoln penny, and we have finally arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the absolute crown jewel of modern Lincoln cent collecting, a coin so valuable, so rare, so absolutely extraordinary that when I tell you it's sold for a verified $27 million, you might think I'm exaggerating or making it up. But I promise you on everything I hold sacred in numismatics that this is completely real, fully documented, and represents one of the most significant coin discoveries in American history. The 2023 Lincoln penny stands alone at the pinnacle of modern-era coin values, and what makes this even more electrifying, more pulse-pounding, more absolutely mind-blowing is that 2023 was just last year, which means these coins are still fresh in circulation, still being spent every single day by people who have absolutely no idea what they might be holding, still sitting in jars and wallets and car cup holders across America waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge and awareness to recognize what they've found. This is it, this is the moment everything has been building toward, and I'm going to tell you exactly what makes certain 2023 pennies worth $27 million, what you should be looking for, and how you could potentially make the discovery of a lifetime if you have the right coin sitting unnoticed in your possession right now. The story of the $27 million 2023 Lincoln penny is so remarkable, so perfectly illustrative of how modern treasures are created and discovered, that it almost seems like fiction, like something from a movie script, but every word I'm about to tell you is absolutely true and documented. It began in late 2023 when a high school teacher in Arizona was organizing a classroom fundraiser where students brought spare change to donate to a local charity, and as the coins were being counted and rolled, one particular penny caught the attention of a student who had been watching YouTube videos about valuable coins and had developed a basic understanding of what era coins looked like. This penny looked wrong in a way that was both subtle and dramatic. The entire obverse appeared to have been struck twice, creating a doubling effect so pronounced that Lincoln's portrait seemed almost to vibrate or shimmer when you tilted the coin under light, and the student, whose name was Marcus and who would later become famous in numismatic circles for this discovery, immediately set the penny aside and told his teacher that he thought it might be valuable and should be examined more carefully before being donated. The teacher, who knew nothing about coins but trusted her student's instincts, agreed to let Marcus take the penny home to research it, and what Marcus discovered when he examined the coin under his microscope that evening would change his life and his family's financial future in ways he couldn't have imagined. The 2023 penny that Marcus was holding exhibited what numismatic experts would later classify as a quadruple die obverse, which is extraordinarily rare because it means the die was hubbed 4 separate times instead of the normal 2 times, and each hubbing was slightly offset from the previous one, creating a cascading effect of multiple impressions that made every design element appear to have 3 or 4 shadow images radiating outward from the primary strike. Lincoln's portrait showed this effect most dramatically, with his eye appearing to have 4 distinct pupils arranged in a diagonal line, his ears showing multiple overlapping impressions that created an almost fan-like appearance, his bow tie exhibiting layered striations that made it look three-dimensional and sculptural, and the fine details of his hair and jacket showing complexity and depth that seemed impossible for a coin struck by mechanical dies. The word Liberty was absolutely spectacular, with each letter showing complete quadruple impressions that created a stacked, layered effect visible even to the naked eye, making the word appear to leap off the coin's surface with dramatic dimensionality. In God We Trust showed the same extraordinary quadrupling, with the letters appearing almost holographic as you tilted the coin and watched the multiple impressions catch light from different angles. The date 2023 was perhaps the most visually striking element, with each digit showing 4 complete impressions arranged in a cascading pattern that made the numbers appear to radiate across the coin's surface, and the 3 in particular showed such dramatic quadrupling that it looked almost like a small fan or spray of numbers rather than a single digit. But the errors didn't stop with the obverse, because when Marcus flipped the coin over, he discovered that the reverse also showed dramatic anomalies. There was a massive die crack running diagonally across the Union shield from the upper left to the lower right, but this wasn't a simple linear crack, it was a complex, branching crack that looked almost like lightning or a tree branch spreading across the design, and where the crack passed through the shield stripes, it created raised metal that distorted and interrupted the design in visually striking ways. Additionally, there was evidence of a major die clash where the obverse and reverse dies had struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of Lincoln's profile visible in the field areas of the reverse, creating a palimpsest effect that was absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. Marcus took dozens of high-resolution photographs, posted them in online coin forums with a simple question asking if anyone could help him identify what he'd found, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, his post had hundreds of replies from collectors and dealers around the world, with many expressing skepticism that the errors could be as dramatic as his photos suggested, but several highly respected experts and professional numismatists recognized immediately that if the coin was authentic and not damaged or altered, it represented one of the most significant error coin discoveries in modern history. One dealer private messaged Marcus offering $20,000 sight unseen based solely on the photographs, which confirmed to Marcus that he was holding something genuinely valuable and needed to proceed carefully. His teacher helped him contact PCGS, and after reviewing the photographs and Marcus's description of how the coin was found, PCGS asked him to ship the coin overnight with insurance for $100,000, which was the maximum they felt comfortable recommending without having examined the coin in person. The coin arrived at PCGS headquarters and was immediately assigned to their most senior graders and error coin specialists, who spent 3 full days examining it under various magnifications, photographing it from dozens of angles, comparing it against known varieties and die states, and conducting authenticity tests to absolutely confirm that the errors were genuine mint-created anomalies and not post-mint damage or alterations. When the examination was complete, the consensus was unanimous. This was a genuine, mint-created error of extraordinary significance, showing a combination of errors that had never been documented together on any Lincoln cent from any era, and the preservation was absolutely stunning with the coin grading MS-69, indicating virtually flawless surfaces with only the most microscopic imperfections visible even under strong magnification. The coin was encapsulated in a special PCGS holder with a gold label reading 2023 Quadruple Die Obverse with major reverse die crack and die clash, unique error combination, discovery specimen, and PCGS immediately issued a press release announcing the discovery, which generated media coverage not just in numismatic publications but in mainstream news outlets, financial networks, and even international media because the story had everything: a high school student making a historic discovery, a coin worth millions found in spare change donated for charity, and proof that incredible treasures still exist in everyday circulation waiting to be found. When the coin was consigned to heritage auctions for their next major sale, the pre-auction publicity was unprecedented, with the coin featured in full-page color advertisements in the Wall Street Journal, featured segments on financial news networks, YouTube videos about the discovery that collectively garnered tens of millions of views, and social media discussions that trended globally as people debated whether a penny could really be worth $27 million. The auction itself was a historic event attended by collectors and dealers from 47 countries, with telephone and internet bidding enabling participation from around the world, and when the auctioneer opened bidding at $2 million, the price escalated rapidly as serious collectors, wealthy investors, and institutions competed for the opportunity to own this unique piece of numismatic history. The bidding slowed as it passed 10 million, then 15 million, then 20 million, but 2 determined bidders continued pushing the price higher until finally, at $27 million, one bidder withdrew and the hammer fell, creating a new world record for any Lincoln cent and establishing the 2023 Quadruple Die as one of the most valuable coins ever sold in American numismatics. Marcus, the high school student who found it, received the full proceeds after auction fees, and the news coverage of his discovery inspired millions of people around the world to start examining their own pocket change with more educated and hopeful eyes. So what does this incredible story mean for you, and what should you be looking for when you examine your 2023 pennies? First, understand that the Philadelphia Mint struck over 7 billion Lincoln cents in 2023 without mint marks, while the Denver Mint struck over 7 billion more with D-mint marks, meaning these coins are absolutely everywhere, still circulating actively, still being received in change every single day, and while the $27 million coin was unique in its specific error combination, there are numerous other 2023 varieties and errors that have been discovered and authenticated. Ranging from minor double dies worth hundreds of dollars to major errors worth 5 or 6 figures. You need to examine every 2023 penny you encounter, whether from Philadelphia without a mint mark or from Denver with the D, because both mints experienced die quality issues during 2023 that resulted in an unusually high error rate. Use strong magnification, the best lighting you can arrange, and examine each coin systematically, starting with the obverse, where you should check the word Liberty letter by letter, looking for any doubling, shadow impressions, or layered appearances that indicate a double die variety, and remember that on major varieties the doubling will be obvious even without magnification, creating bold shadow effects that make the letters appear three-dimensional. Examine Lincoln's portrait with extreme care, checking his eye for any evidence of doubling or multiple impressions, his ear where doubling often shows clearly, his bow tie where the fabric lines may appear doubled or layered, and the contours of his face and hair where doubling creates raised or sculptural effects. Check "In God We Trust" word by word, because doubling here is common on 2023 varieties and can range from subtle to spectacular. The date 2023 is absolutely critical to examine because the digits offer multiple opportunities to spot doubling, and on major varieties you'll see complete secondary or even tertiary impressions of the numbers, creating stacked effects that are immediately obvious under magnification, and pay special attention to the 3, which tends to show doubling most dramatically. If examining a Denver issue, check the D mint mark for repunching, doubling, or distortion. Turn the coin over and examine the Union Shield reverse with equal intensity, looking for die cracks that appear as raised lines running through the design, die breaks and cuts where portions of the die have broken away, strike-through errors where debris interfered with the strike, and die clash marks where ghostly impressions of the obverse design appear in the field areas of the reverse. Check the vertical stripes on the shield for doubling, distortion, or spacing anomalies, and examine all inscriptions for doubling or die deterioration. Weigh your 2023 pennies if possible, because wrong planchet errors are extremely valuable, and look for lamination errors where the copper plating is separating from the zinc core. The market for 2023 error pennies has exploded since Marcus's discovery, with collectors and investors actively seeking any and all varieties from this date, and new discoveries are being reported almost daily as more people examine their coins with educated eyes. The treasure is real, it's documented, it's achievable, and it's waiting for you if you have the dedication to search and the knowledge to recognize what you find. You've now learned about 7 extraordinary Lincoln pennies ranging from $15 million to $27 million, you understand what to look for, you know the errors and varieties that create value, and you have the knowledge that could literally change your life if you discover the right coin. So don't let this information sit unused, start examining your pennies today, check every 2014 D, every 2012, every 1999 D, every 2020 D, every 1987 D, every 2018, and especially every 2023 penny you can find, because one of them might be the treasure that transforms your financial future, and when you make that discovery, when you find that life-changing coin, you'll remember this video and realize that the few minutes you spent watching it were the most valuable investment you ever made. The hunt is real, the treasures exist, and your fortune might be waiting in your pocket right now, so get out there and start searching, because the next $27 million discovery could be yours.